it would bring up my fight or flight response. I'm caught in the headlights, I'm cornered. You expect something from me, I don't know if I can deliver it. So we all feel that very commonly. Very famous actors, actresses, speakers, singers have all mentioned that they have felt it, that they continue to feel it throughout their careers, and that they found ways to manage it. It's valuable, which sounds almost impossible. How could this frightening thing that keeps you from remembering what you were going to say, from exuding confidence, from being a good speaker, how could that be valuable? But it is valuable, because you don't really want somebody up there who doesn't really care what's going on. I don't really care, I just got some things to tell you, and blah, blah, blah. That's not helpful, it's not respectful, really. You want a little energy, a little bite in what you're about to say, and those same nerves, that same you're on, can be channeled in a way to bring extra energy and emotion and even volume to what you're about to say, but you do need to learn how to channel it, because there is a point at which it's unhelpful. You're in a full-flown stage fright. You're panic-stricken, and you can't go on. So it's manageable, and there are ways to do that, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. I know stage fright very well. It's both an enemy and a friend. And as Bhavani mentioned, I have done various things that bring up stage fright. And they come up in various forms with various types of things that you do. When I have sung in the past, the reason why I started Toastmasters was that I could sing. I got to the point where I could sing and handle the fact of the microphone being there amplifying my voice. But then there were often times when I was meant to introduce the band, say something about the song, mention that there were tickets being sold in the back, or some kind of other aspect of the event that I was at, and I would go blank. I would go mute. I would stand there frozen, and the people in the band would be waiting for me to say something. And I would know that I was supposed to, and suddenly, very awkwardly from behind a drum or another big instrument, somebody would come and grab the microphone out of my hand and say, "Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming. I just want to introduce the band now." And I would stand there and just die. And this was weird, and it made some musicians really not want to play with me. So I had to learn how to deal with that unscripted space. The song, you know the lyrics, you know the words that are coming. There's always the unknown aspect of that kind of performance, but you know what you're going to do. You know the song. If you really practice it, just like if you really practice a speech or anything else that you need to get up and do, you're more confident. But the banter or the unscripted information in between was really frightening, so I needed that practice. When I then went to puppetry, I learned in Toastmasters that I really should not handle papers, because it would look like I was not nervous until I had to do that, and it was very, very noticeable. When you have a puppet, and you're a little bit nervous and a little bit shaky, the puppet looks like it's having a nervous breakdown. Suddenly there are 30 families out there and your puppet's doing this. And it's the exact opposite of the therapeutic, gentle puppetry, which that is supposed to be for young children. So you have to learn other techniques. I learned how to brace one hand against the other to stop. I learned how to root myself in the ground first. You can reduce nervousness. The very best way to do it is through experience, and the very best venue I found to practice it is here at Toastmasters. You are asked to call new things out of yourself all the time that you didn't know you could do. You don't just get up and give a similar kind of speech each time. Even if you give the same basic content and information, you're asked to do it from a different perspective. To focus this time on persuading, this time on using vocal variety, this time on using your body language. And so even if you gave the same speech a lot, you are learning so much by considering in bits and pieces a very specific aspect of what you're doing. And you simply have to get up and do it to a friendly audience who wants you to succeed and who forgives you if you're a little shaky. I can't recommend enough just signing up for speeches and taking that chance to gain that experience. Do it again and again and again and just keep going. I also found in Toastmasters, I've only done it once, entering contests can be very helpful because I entered one contest here, I think it was just among our group, and won, and then went to a slightly bigger contest with more groups and won. And then went to a slightly bigger contest that was at a TV station, which was very nerve-wracking, and won. And then went to a regional conference and didn't even place. So you definitely are coming out concentrically in your comfort level. But what I found was after doing all that and coming back to the group like this was so much easier. Oh, thank goodness, it's only these people who will come regularly, and I know your faces, and I know who you are, and I only have to stand right here, not on a stage with all the amphitheater seats looking downward. You learn a lot. So when you increase your comfort zone and then you go back to the first place that seemed so scary, it's not so scary anymore. If you have chances to speak in other venues, at your church, at your school, in your community, just do it. Just get up and do it, and even if it's not perfect, you've gained that much experience with a different kind of group. It can be really helpful to go to the place first and see what the situation is. I recently gave a 5-week course on jazz and the history of the American Songbook up at BCC in Pittsfield. And I didn't think it was a big deal because I come here and we were in a room like this, and I figured I'd be here with some casual people and it would be all right. I did some performance and some lecturing. And then I went ahead of time to check out the space. It was a major auditorium with amphitheater-like seats and a whole sound system and lights, and everybody was facing down like this, and there was a stage. Well, it's a good thing I checked that out before I got there. And I just had to stand on the stage and look out and imagine the audience. And it went well. So that's another thing that you can do with anything. Going physically to a space whenever you can is really helpful because it helps in your mental rehearsal. You can simply rehearse in your mind that you're going to get up from your seat, you're not going to knock anything over, you're going to take your space, you're going to make a connection with your audience, you're going to impart something to them, you'll get something back from them, everybody will have a good time, and you'll be fine. So it's really helpful to use that kind of mental rehearsal, mental preparation to get yourself ready. And that's separate from your actual work and preparation on the speech. That, of course, you need to do. And the more you do that, the more comfortable and confident you're likely to be. But there's this other kind of envisioning yourself doing a good job, which studies have actually shown works and helps. Another kind of mini version of that is something called pre-paving, where even if you just have a few moments right before you're about to get up or on your way in the car over, just before just rushing out of the car, rushing from your seat, just say, this is going to go well, people will receive me well, I have something to say, and then begin. You also can use other relaxation techniques. Something, a lot of times when we're nervous, as Willie showed us, we can't breathe properly. And we end up breathing very shallowly, and it gives us that shortness of breath kind of feeling when we're trying to speak. So just remember to breathe from your diaphragm, just bring it down. If you have a chance to lie down somewhere beforehand with a book or something on your stomach and get used to what it feels like to breathe from your diaphragm, the book should be moving up and down so that you have some point of reference when you're standing up and you can kind of tell where you're breathing from and bring it down again. It's helpful for speaking and for singing. Really important. Another thing you can do, and there are many little tricks and hints that different people have, you just have to try things and see what works for you. In this manual it was told if you have a chance you do all these exercises and these various things, but normally in most circumstances we really don't have a chance to do that right before we're about to speak. So yes, any relaxation exercise that you know of that you can do that allows you to relax, get in your body, feel grounded, it's all great. However, if they're subtle, something that you can do internally or something that you can just do without a lot of fanfare and notice, one thing I found very helpful is just squeezing my hands and releasing it and shaking it a couple of times. And then it's just channeling out of my body. So a few helpful hints are take your space. And that means if I have to go over there and get my stand for a minute, I'm not quite ready, I'm not talking, gotta put a few things around, I'm not quite ready. Now I've got my space. And you're much more likely to be effective and feel more calm and centered if you do that. Root your feet. Imagine them rooting right down into the ground. If you're feeling that shaky limbed thing where sometimes it feels like you don't have any knees at all, get rooted. Again, just take those little seconds and moments. It will actually come across as confident, as someone who's willing to take a space. You have to be willing to take a space. You have to be willing to stand rooted. And it will have a wonderful effect on you and everyone. Again, breathing from the diaphragm is really important and something that's great to practice at home. Be yourself. This doesn't mean the self in the sweatpants on the couch at home who hasn't brushed her teeth yet. There are certain aspects of self which maybe your listening audience doesn't need to see or know about, but it's your best version of yourself, but it's authentic, it's real, there's nobody else you need to be, and we all have something individual and important and unique to impart, and just know that people want to receive it. Be willing to connect. If I'm just up all here with my notes and trying to hide from you, it's very uncomfortable for the audience. So again, when you take your space and you get rooted, you can take a moment to connect and you can feel things coming back from the audience. It's not just about you giving out, it's an exchange. There's a connection, and be willing to make that connection. And in time, know that you can actually have fun. It can feel good. I've done a number of things to help manage my own stage fright and anxiety. And sometimes in Toastmasters, I think I said it this morning to Karen, she asked me if I had written notes, and I said, yes, is that all right? She said, oh no, it just made me feel better because I have notes too. I said, well, so we laughed at our reaction to that. But actually you can have fun, and it's because of that connection, it's because of that willingness to stand there, be yourself, give out, and get something back, that actually, in time, translates into fun. Thank you.
Okay. How many of you found that helpful?
Very.
Yes, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. Now, it is true that we are going to go slightly over today. Okay. And you're... Yes, you're evaluating number 2.
Yeah.
What time do you have to leave?
I have to leave at 1:15. I didn't know we were going to go over.
You said first. Yeah. All right. What we'll do is change our order of things slightly. This is again another. The point of this is to get everything in for the manuals, and so we'll put table topics aside for just a moment, and we will go into our evaluation phase for just a moment. So the person you are evaluating, the speech is,
Well, I can wait till, you can do it in sequence. Are you just gonna have them do it and then go back to table topics?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Or do you want to?
You better do all the evaluations.
Yeah.
We could do all the evaluations and then come back.
Yes,
Yeah.
the table.
Yeah. So Dan, are you going to be here next week?
Yeah.
Let's do table topics next week.
Sure.
Okay, very good.
Otherwise,
Things went slightly longer than we had planned. For those of you who are new to Toastmasters, first of all, the table topics are a time when we can practice what Therese was talking about. So we'll do that next week. This will be perfect. And then we have the evaluation portion of the meeting, and that's unique to Toastmasters, and one of the best things, because if you simply go out and speak again and again, you do get experience, and it does become easier. But if you have some feedback, that's even better. Then you get better so much faster. So in that case, we'll just do it in order.
Yeah, do it in order, I'll be done.
So let's have the timing on the first, on the speeches.
Speech 1, Karen Andrews, was 8:12, it was supposed to be 5 to 7.
8:12, a little bit over.
Speech 2, Christiana, was 7:07, supposed to be 5 to 7.
Perfect. We get 30 seconds grace period after the
Susan-
7 minutes.
Susan Higa was 8 to 10, she was 9:43.
Awesome.
Sharon True was 5 to 7, and she was 7:57.
A little bit over.
And Therese was 10 to 15 minutes, she was 15:09.
Okay.
That's what it says on here.
Oh, but the thing wasn't talking to me.
Oh, I was doing it.
Oh, I guess I misunderstood.
It's okay, you were in time. That's okay. So, to evaluate then Karen Andrews' speech, we evaluate the speech and not the person, of course, and it is Jeremy Beckett. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheer for him.
Well, that was a first for me, at least, Karen, to hear someone give a speech halfway through the first book, and it's a play. You wrote a play for us. And I thought that was fun. I thought it was a great idea to do that. And you made full use, this, by the way, the subject, the thing to focus on in this speech was your body speaks. So this was about using your body to help convey the message. And Karen was moving, she helped us a little bit at the beginning by quietly saying corporation, neighborhood, or whatever it was. So we got the idea very quickly that she was just simply playing two roles. And then we launched into the presentation. Now, this is an ideal world. If you were able to do that without the notes, of course, that would have been really great, because it's a reading. This was really a kind of a reading. You did a nice work with your voice. I love the sort of expression of the corporation trying to poo-poo and sort of put aside all these objections, very real objections coming from the neighborhood. I thought you did that effectively. I would have loved to have had your pacing with a little more space in it. There was a lot you wanted to get in, and I think you could have, in terms of the presentation, you could have cut a little bit out of the content in order to make more room for the dramatic kind of possibilities. So if it's a drama, make it a little more dramatic, and that will be more powerful. You also gave yourself a pause. I thought you did that well. You kind of went away and came back in order to then present to be yourself at the end. Now, when you're yourself, you want to, in rather the way that we heard a bit from Therese, bring yourself really right into this. Don't be apologetic. You have a very clear message you want to bring, having done your drama, make that really powerful and use your space and your voice and all you've got to really make it clear that this is the Berkshires where this stuff's going to happen. And we need to act upon it. It was great, a great idea, and you gave us a lot. Thank you very much.
Okay, to evaluate Christiana Wall's speech is Susanna Hall. And I want to say one thing before you start. Will was supposed to be doing this evaluation, and he, of course, is under the weather, and so he recruited Susanna to come and do this for him. So thank both of you.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yes.
And also, let me just say on that subject that I have, I've set up a website. If anybody's interested in what's going on with Will, I'll leave a little envelope right here on the table afterwards, because I'm going to have to leave, and you can pick up the URL for the website. Great. So,
Yeah.
there you are. I'm going to, they ask us a whole bunch of questions here because this is a speech about vocal variety, and I'm going to come to that later on. But they ask, what did you like about the speech? And I almost didn't have enough room to write it all down. First of all, Christiana's poise and in front of the room and her presence and her ownership of the space is exemplary. Some of us who've been here for a much longer time don't have that skill and that comfort in front of the room. And I think it makes the audience just very comfortable because she's so comfortable up here. Also, the skill, and I've seen Christiana do this before, but the skill to get through this whole speech without notes, it just gives you a sense that you can really listen to the story, you can listen to what's going on, because you're not worried about the speaker. We all have this habit sometimes, if the speaker seems uncomfortable, then we're uncomfortable, and we can't even listen. So we were able to hear everything you had to say. I particularly was impressed by and appreciated the descriptions, the richness, and I loved it when you said you didn't have a photograph of it, but those moments were still in your mind, in your memory, and you were able to make them real for us as we sit in a room where all of that scenery doesn't exist. I loved your ability to create characters, particularly your father. I almost feel if your father walked into the room, we would recognize him. It's a great ability to do that. I love your preparation for speeches. I did not have the feeling, and actually Christiana had emailed me, and she's told me about where she'd been and all this other stuff going on in her life, and yet she obviously had time to work on this speech to the point that it was beautifully, beautifully prepared. I asked Christiana also what she was working on, what she was trying to accomplish, and she said that she had been evaluated before by not projecting enough. So I want to ask those of you in the back of the room, could you hear her well enough? Because I was sitting here, I couldn't tell. Okay, so good.
That was fun.
Excellent, excellent. And I loved your compelling open and close. We often, in fact, we were talking about Will always talks about the ho-hum crasher, the thing that opens the speech, that makes you want to pay attention. And you did that, and the ending was exquisite. I mean, we all knew it was going somewhere, and you were almost out of time, and where was it going to go? And there was that beautiful moment of the charm and the miracle of that. And we sort of expected a miracle, and then we thought we weren't going to get one, and then we actually got one. So that was all brilliantly done. So what can you learn from this? What can you improve? This was a speech about vocal variety, and we didn't get a lot of vocal variety. We got the great bit with your husband about what's going on with you. You had a lot of opportunity in this speech. You were crying. You could have given us that tearful thing. You were frightened to do the next bit, all of that can come out in the way that you use your voice and the tonality. You could have quivered a little bit. You could have done those things, and I've written that out here. So that was the opportunity for this speech. Otherwise, great, great job. Congratulations. Now, to evaluate
Susan's speech is Lara. Lara Connery.
Susan, thank you for your speech. You're clearly very passionate about healthy eating choices, and you bring that passion and enthusiasm to all of your speeches. I know that you are working on this speech as a greater project. We talked last night, and you said that it's been leading up for several months to a presentation in the community with parents. So I think you're well on your way to creating a great event. And I loved a lot of things about your speech, especially talking about vibrant energy, and we have this barometer of the snooze button. I thought that was one of the best pieces of how you used your body, how you evoked an anecdote, and something we could all relate to. And you used some great anecdotes about advertising campaigns. We've all seen them, and we've all been have that inner voice of, where am I in my health? And you talked about how health isn't a point, but it is a direction, and every day we're getting feedback about where we are with our health, as opposed with regards to our energy. You brought food in, and that was wonderful. That really grounded the speech into the moment and the reality. You inspired the audience to follow a natural rhythm to create balance. So you brought the idea of eating healthy into the natural world and into our connection to nature, using the sun and natural biorhythms. And I think that's really valuable, and people will be able to relate to that well. I thought your speech was wonderful. It was inspiring and cheerful. I think one or two things that you might be able to improve upon is, instead of reading all the ingredients on the Pringle label, just ask the question, can you read the label? If you can't read the label, maybe it's not a choice you want to make. Because it just felt like the energy was a little bit lost in the clarity of your speech as you were sort of stumbling over the label. But maybe that was the point that you were trying to make. I'm not sure. And then, since this speech is geared for parents and kids, I thought you could have been even more clear about snack ideas, because that, as a parent for me, that's one of the stumbling blocks in creating a healthy, nutritious food culture for my son. And so maybe even just bringing in some more clear-cut ideas about healthy snacks and presenting a recipe or something like that. But overall, it was awesome, and thank you.
Okay, our final evaluation is, we're evaluating Sharon's speech, and to do that is Therese Atchison. Thank you.
I was looking around everywhere before the speech, and I thought you weren't here. That's why I got worried. Well, I think the rotten teeth made a really strong point and was a great opener. Loved it. I actually think you could have just left them on. It wasn't distracting, really, to your speech, and kind of coming over here, and it was a little fun and cute, but I don't think you really needed to do it. You could even end your speech saying, so you want to end up like this, or it's something you could have used it. So that was something that I thought was great, the way you used it, and then maybe you could have just left it there. We would have forgotten about it as you kept speaking. I feel like I'm really beginning to understand this, and so I love the progression that we've been able to have. And today, the something new that you brought, the historical perspective on toothbrushing, this is meant to be a persuasive speech, and that was very persuasive. Just to see the whole cycle of events, how this is similar, how you envision this as something you do after brushing your teeth, the way you brought in the rotten teeth. I feel like it, as far as a whole complete speech, it works really well. And it was really interesting, and you could see how this other subject could work right into that same progression. I liked your simple word cues, where, in fact, before you brought them up, I had started writing down over here. It would have been good to have the words written and then you picked them up and held them up, just the one word at a time in plain writing. It really helped me hear what you were saying about each of those steps. It's simple and effective. And the circular chart, too, was very simple, handwritten, but easy to read from a distance, and helped in a very simple visual picture me understand that cycle that you're trying to say. So I thought those were very effective. A little less effective for me was the doctored fixodent prop, because it was just confusing. First we saw the fixodent and I was confused why maybe you could have made a point that you're going to need the fixodent if you don't if you don't brush your teeth, then you're going to need other things if you don't do these exercises. But I felt like you didn't really need that particular prop. You had some other good props. You had the teeth, you had the other things, or you could have held up a picture of it that was big and easy for us to see, but somehow the taped over part didn't work for me as well as a visual, and was possibly not really that needed. And I would say your smile at the end while you were moving was great. And in fact, maybe it would have even been funnier if your teeth were still black at that point, but you know, when you were doing your thing and smiling, I looked around, everybody in the room was smiling too. So I feel like you are really getting your message across in a more clear and persuasive way as you build up your repertoire. Thank you.
All right, now we'll have our reports, and we count certain things, Judith, so that we can improve our speaking as well. So we have an awe counter, and that was Abigail. She's going to let us know what happened today.
All right.
It's just kind of an overview.
Yes, I think people did well. Jeremy, 7. Bhavani, 5. Diana, 0. Karen, 0. Christina Wall, 0. Susan, 7. Sharon, 3. Treese, 1. And then 5 for Laura.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Very well done. Yes, sirree. It's just something that we use unconsciously, and so to bring them to consciousness is helpful. Grammarian, Diana, did you notice anything?
I did, and mostly I have questions about them. Karen spoke of the kindness of our heart, and I was wondering if it shouldn't be out of the kindness of our hearts, because it's ours. I'm sorry. So that was a question. And then I think I also heard her say, inform yourself, and my question was, inform yourselves, because she's speaking to plurality of us. So that was, okay.
Both reasonable, yep.
Well, so, but mostly these are all questions. Christiana, and it's interesting because Susanna corrected this one thing. You said you had no pictures from that time, and she remembered it as you're having no photographs, which is the correct word, which was interesting that she had changed it too. And I think you said also you didn't want to go on the larger hike, and I think it should have been longer hike. And it wasn't being a fruitful inquiry. It wasn't being a fruitful. I just felt that something was off in that sentence. And Susan, okay, just a couple of things. I am a bugger on this, aren't I?
Yeah, but this is terrific. Bring us into consciousness here.
There was one sentence you said you're trying to move away, and it was hanging because you're trying to move away from. I think would have completed that sentence. Bad habits you're trying to move away from. And one thing that kept bugging me was you'd say important. You miss the T, important. Is this something that we do? Is this a
There are people who do, yes, but it's important to have the,
Important. Just use the word.
that's right.
Right.
Why
And
not
this
be
was-
correct?
And Sharon, you kept referring to a nation of toothbrushers, and aren't we teeth brush? I don't know, this I could be wrong. Are we not teeth brushers? Or is it just
That would make more sense.
Well, a toothbrush was
No,
invented in
no,
Maine.
that's right.
It had been invented elsewhere.
For one
than a
tooth.
toothbrush.
Right,
That's supposed to be a funny term.
Yeah.
So
It is,
we
yeah.
don't consider it popular.
Or toothbrush users, we could say.
Right.
Yeah.
Um,
That-
Teresa, nothing, and I didn't even catch you in anything today.
Good.
Although I tried.
What a break.
Yes, that's catch the breath, that's right, there you are. So we didn't get the timings quickly on the other
The evaluation.
evaluations and the table topics.
We didn't do it.
I'm sorry, we didn't do the table topics. Thank you.
Everyone was in,
That's right.
everyone was in, within time. Jeremy 2:41, Lara 3, Trees 2:58, but except Susanna, who was 3:35.
3:35, 5 seconds over, not a problem. But Susanna's evaluation was so beautiful, wasn't it?
Yes.
I mean, she really is our master evaluator. Now, let's find out what the new people thought of the meeting. Judith, how did you like it?
I thought it was really interesting.
Dynamite,
I-
dynamite. So you think you might like to come again?
Yeah, I don't know if I ever want
Join
to
us
speak in
next week.
public, but-
Well, you never
okay.
know. You may
We've
be
got to stop
impelled
somewhere.
at some point just to leap up and do something. That's good. And Audrey?
You are-
I particularly like the variety of the topics. No two topics were alike. I appreciated the different ways that all the speakers brought themselves into their topic. It was great.
Mm-hmm.
I'm grateful, thank you.
That's super, that's super. It's a fascinating club, we have so much variety of things. So the person that I did not introduce in the beginning as a guest is Ann Block. And the reason that I did not introduce her is because she just seems, I mean, she was a member, she's been a member of Toastmasters for years and years and years and years and years. She teaches speech, and so I just figured you're one of the group, right?
Oh,
You know, I
thank you.
forgot you were a guest, there you are.
I was a co-founder with the,
Yes,
with Will and
With
Suzanne.
Will.
that's
Susanna.
right, that's right. She started this whole process that we're doing.
1997.
Well, that's
Cool.
awesome. It's
So,
great
thank
to
you.
have you here.
Thank you.
And what did you think of the meeting?
Oh, again, the variety, this, you don't know how lucky you are, because I've been to a lot of Toastmaster meetings. No, the content of people having something to say.
Right.
And one of my students, I got the job through Will here, but one of the students said, can I major in speech in college? I said, yes, but don't. Major in something that you can speak about.
Talk about,
So
yeah.
you have content. Some
Yeah.
people really, I said, if all you want to do is talk, become a politician. But if you want to say something, then you need content. That's my philosophy.
So if you have friends who need to come to a class, what is your class?
Oh, Introduction to Oral Communication. And it's required for graduation, otherwise nobody would take it. And the first night, it's a 3-hour class, we meet across the hall. The first night, I said to students, I give them a speech, which is awful, and I won't go on until they admit that what's wrong with it has no point. So then I say, some of you are thinking, gee, I could do better than that. So let's stand up, give your name, and tell about an animal. One woman fled the room. I mean, we're half hour into it. I called her at home that night. She said, I just can't do it. So it's really, they should come. I encourage them all to come here. I say that
We've
we'll
had
be
people
embraced.
from their
Have you?
class
Yeah.
come and said they were told to come.
It's really awful. You know, it's a skill. It's like riding a bicycle. Once you can do it, you wonder how you ever thought you couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I tell them, I hear you in the hall, blah, blah, blah. I said, you already do this. It's just organizing it.
That's great, that's great. So, all right, the theme of the meeting, oh my goodness, the theme of the meeting. Who has a theme in mind? Yes,
Healthy choices, small term and nationwide.
healthy choices in your life and nationwide, awesome. And so, we started slightly late, we're ending a little bit late, and we're gonna meet next week. Where is the sign-up sheet? Right?
Yeah,
Perfect, okay.
Seems to
Let's
be.
see if it's all filled in.
seems to have gone quite good.
That's awesome. We'll get more people and we'll just, oh, good. Catherine's gonna be Toastmaster. I'll talk with you, Catherine, and we'll plan the meeting. That's perfect.
Are we meeting here?
We're meeting right here in this room, everything the same as today, but we'll just have another time. Yes, sirree. So let's get the president back up.
All right.
Yes, Jeremy, cheer for Jeremy. Before Jeremy says anything, since this is his last meeting, before we change officers, it would be nice to just go around, just pop out a word. What do you appreciate about Jeremy and his time as president? Go ahead, pop out a word.
Funny.
Charm.
British sensibility.
Excellent,
Yes.
Generosity.
excellent,
Yes.
Humor. Welcome, I agree.
awesome.
Stories,
Awesome.
stories.
So, thank you.
Thank you very much. You
Yeah.
know what I'm looking forward to?
What?
I'm looking forward to coming here on the 1st of July, and I've signed up to give a speech.
Oh.
Because I haven't actually given a speech for 6 months at
That's
least.
what happens.
That's right,
It's true.
that's right.
So this is what I'm really looking forward to. I'm getting back into actually speaking. So it'll be great. Thank you. Yes, just to mention one more thing, which is that we traditionally have lunch together, those who can, at the Co-op, just round the corner. It's very nice to meet together, and a bunch of us usually do it, so I hope you can come. Thanks very much, everybody, and those of you who can, you'll be here next week, which will be great.
Meeting is adjourned.
This meeting is